What if you could build the perfect machine? One that could make its own fuel, adapt to changing conditions, and generate priceless products like air and water. When it comes to plants, there's nothing shoddy about nature's workmanship. Each part has been tested over millions of years with amazing results. Very efficient, very versatile, lean, green machines. So, grab your xylem and phloem and let's get going. I'm Anna Gibson, computer wizard. Give me a mouse and a modem and I'm set. But today, give me a shovel, because digging in dirt is the only way to get to the root of plant life in action. The unit was plant structure and growth. I thought, cool. See, I've got this lab partner, Jack Snyder.
Hey, what's up?
And if there's one thing Jack could use, it's some lessons in growing up.
I think we should be clear that growth and maturity are not the same thing.
My dad's best friend, Dr. Fig, is a computer genius and all-around smart guy. So I couldn't figure out why he was transmitting in this funky low-res way.
It's the best I can do, Anna. I had a hard time getting a link out here where I'm doing research on plants.
There are so many different kinds.
At least 310,000 species, and counting.
How would I ever sort out the structures and growth of all those plants?
Don't focus on how they're not alike. Look for the similarities. What makes them all plants?
Similarities? Right. But what could a huge old tree possibly have in common with some tiny moths? The answers weren't easy to see with the naked eye. With a little research, though, I compiled my list. Plants are all multi-celled.
That's true of lots of animals.
But animal cells are like squishy plastic bags. Plant cells have rigid walls made out of cellulose to protect them. Most plants contain chlorophyll.
The substance the plant uses to trap energy from the sun.
And all plants have tissues and organs.
Then along came a Snyder and rode right beside her.
As usual, Jack dropped in to annoy me just as I was getting some work done. So immature. I told him to grow up, which reminded him of something else that all plants do.
As any unlucky kid who's ever had to mow the lawn can tell you, all plants keep growing and growing and growing and growing. They grow new leaves, wider stems, longer roots. Because a plant is a growing thing. No matter how big, small, or old. Like this bristlecone pine. Doesn't look real lively, but shows some respect. At about 4,000 years old, it's one of the oldest living things on Earth. If it could talk, I wonder what it would say.
My structure's built to last, sonny boy.
What's its secret?
The answer to that is teamwork. Similar cells band together to form a tissue. These cells got together to make leaf skin, otherwise known as epidermis. But it takes more than just skin to make a leaf. When many different tissues work together to do a job, the result is an organ. In this case, a whole leaf.
To get a job done, it helps to be organized. Organized? Get it?
I got it. But how did a bunch of cells manage to get organized in the first place? We went straight to our friend Artie in the swamp to find out. He told us some plants evolved from green algae nearly 420 million years ago. Like algae, they were water dwellers that absorbed all their nutrients right through their cell walls. Since every cell had to touch the water to get those nutrients, plants stayed pretty shrimpy. And what happens if the water dries up?
Water! Water!
In response, some of the cells evolved. They clumped together and formed tube-shaped tissues. The tubes could reach out and suck up water from a distance.
The tubes are like the veins running through your body. We call this the vascular system.
So that must mean that plants, like mosses, that don't have veins are non-vascular.
Correctamundo. Unlike mosses, vascular plants could live far from water, and their vascular systems enabled them to grow into a splendiferous number of varieties. Wide, tall, straight, curly, you name it. And once the vascular plants evolved on planet Earth, they changed the place forever. Today, you can find plants in almost every nook and cranny on the globe. Take a look around you, from the frozen poles to the tropical rainforests to the arid deserts, and of course, our own backyards. The world is filled with plants.
Mondo Bizarro, my friends. The biggest living thing on all the planet is not a sumo wrestler, not the blue whale, not even Anna's brain.
Oh, ha ha ha.
Nope, the world's biggest living thing is General Sherman.
The Civil War general?
No, the sequoia tree in California. It would take you and more than 25 of your friends to link hands all the way around its base.
Remarkable. And it could never have gotten that big without xylem and phloem.
Whoa, and you thought the organ music was bad.
Not xylophone, Snyder. Xylem and phloem. They're the plant's vascular tissues. Xylem is a one-way street. It carries water and minerals up and only up from the roots. But the phloem carries food, like simple sugars, wherever it's needed.
Wherever it's bound, it has to go through the stem.
Dr. Fig, that's a tree trunk, not a stem.
Not all stems are the flimsy green variety you find on the flower. Tree trunks are stems too, my boy. Woody stems that survive year after year. Either way, the stem's job is to support the leaves as they reach for the sun. And running through it, like an interstate highway system, the xylem and phloem distribute all the necessary goods between the roots and the leaves.
Everybody knows that you can find out how old a tree is by counting its rings. But do you know why? Each spring and summer, new xylem and phloem are made just inside the bark of the tree trunk. Every growth spurt leaves behind a distinct ring. This tree was about 52 years old when it was cut down. But age isn't the only story a tree tells. You can tell if it was a wet or a dry year by the size of the ring. When lots of water moves through the xylem, you get a wide ring. Less rain makes a narrower one. And where is that water coming from?
It's high time you got to the root of the matter.
As an aspiring lawn care professional, Jack knows roots, especially those of the dandelion persuasion.
Ouch!
One of a root's main jobs is to anchor the plant in place. A large, fat root, the kind a dandelion or a carrot has, is called a taproot. Impressive, isn't it? With most plants, there's at least as much stuff below the ground as there is above it.
When you're pulling weeds, you gotta get the whole root out, right down to the root cap. It covers the only part of the root that actually grows, the root tip. If you leave it in the ground, the whole thing might sprout up again. The root hairs don't look like much, but they take in all the plant's nutrients out of the soil. And in case you haven't heard enough about these guys already, xylem and phloem are in the root too, standing by to transport water and sugar here and there.
Not all plants burrow with a central taproot. Some, like grass, go with the theory that many roots are better than one. Fibrous roots are particularly good at hanging on to dirt.
Some roots are also their plant's food storage system. When the a plant needs a boost to grow or survive. It converts the food back into energy.
Unless we get to it first, of course. Just think, when you eat a carrot, you're really chewing up roots. Here comes an extra credit experiment. Getting down with roots. One of the most amazing things about roots is their unfailing sense of direction. When you plant a seed, the root always seems to know which way to go. Down. I wondered if we could trick one to grow in the opposite direction. The hypothesis for our experiment is, roots will always grow down. You don't need many materials for this experiment. Just a plastic food bag with some wet paper towels inside, a stapler, and some bean seeds. First, we put the bean seeds in the bag, keeping them about 3 finger widths apart.
Then I did some precision stapling.
The idea is to place 4 bean seeds in the bag positioned every which way. That will mean that their position in the bag doesn't have anything to do with growing downwards.
It's a little tricky getting the seeds stapled in place, but I'm good.
When Jack was done amusing himself with the stapler, we made sure the bag was tightly closed to seal in the moisture, and we took it to a sunny window.
We attached the bag to the window with a device I like to call the Snyder clamp. It does a great job of keeping the bag in just the right spot. Of course, you could just use a paper clip.
We checked every day to see that the seeds were still moist, and we waited for the roots to appear. On day 5, the roots began to pop out. Sure enough, no matter how the seed was situated in the bag, all the roots were headed for the floor.
A real downer, man.
And then we waited some more. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. On day 7, the roots were about 3 centimeters long, and still heading gracefully downward. We decided to pull the old switcheroo.
I carefully released the Snyder clamp and turned the whole bag upside down.
We kept recording our notes and waited a few more days. On day 10, we turned the bag around and checked it out. Those little roots had definitely changed direction and were all pointed downward once more.
The roots are affected by the law of gravity.
Gravity. It's not just a good idea. It's the law.
Our conclusion was that roots follow gravity downward.
It's called geotropism. Just because a plant can't see or hear like you and me doesn't mean it's completely in the dark. Hey, how do I get out of here? A tropism is a plant's response to an outside influence that directs plant growth or movement.
Right, like there's phototropism, the tendency of a plant to grow towards the light. Or a thigmotropism, that's when a plant responds to touch like this mimosa plant. Or a Venus flytrap when it closes.
Cool. While Anna was tied up with tropisms, I thought I'd borrow her laptop to check in with Kelly. She told me about a plant that really knows how to move. Spanish moss isn't Spanish. You can find it in Louisiana and Florida, among other places. And it isn't moss either. Would you believe it's actually related to the pineapple? But it takes more than a weird name to achieve Mondo Bizarro status. Here's a plant that doesn't have any roots at all. So how's it get its water and nutrients? Sucks them right out of the tropical air with specially adapted leaves. Kelly said Spanish moss is very romantic, and all I could say to that was,
Get your mitts off my computer.
I guessed it was time to leave, learn about leaves.
Yup, like xylem, we were flowing upwards where the plant makes food.
Xylem?
Come on, Jack, you remember xylem. Along with phloem, it's part of a plant's vascular system. It carries water up from the ground while phloem transports sugar everywhere. In all vascular plants, you can find phloem and xylem in the stem, whether that stem is woody and strong or green and flimsy. You can also find them in the roots, both fibrous roots and tap roots.
Then I bet we'll find it in leaves, too. Hey, check out how many different kinds there are. There are simple leaves, like an oak leaf. Its blades made all in one piece. But compound leaves, like this one, have tons of blades. And pine needles, can you believe those skinny prickly dudes are really leaves?
Then Jack told me if I were a leaf, I'd be compound, 'cause there's nothing simple about me. But I'm not nearly as prickly as I pretend to be. So, I agreed to make our leaf cross-section chart.
And a beautiful graphic it is, too. I see you've included the cuticle.
The waxy, water-repellent layer on the leaf exterior.
Beneath it is the epidermis.
Like our skin, the epidermis is a protective covering for the important stuff inside.
And what's inside is the mesophyll, which is divided into two layers, the palisades layer and the spongy layer.
The palisades layer is where most of the plant's food making happens. Like a little green battery, chloroplasts are filled with chlorophyll that soak up sunlight. Later, that energy is used to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugar.
In the spongy layer, you find the vein, which contains the xylem and phloem.
I ruled. I knew they'd show up sooner or later. But why'd you put the stomata and guard cells on the bottom?
Some leaves have them on top too, but mostly you find them on the bottom. Stomata are like mouths that let things go in and out of the leaf. The guard cells are like lips, opening and closing the entry. As a byproduct of photosynthesis, the stomata release oxygen, which we need to breathe. We, in return, exhale the carbon dioxide they need to perform photosynthesis.
Oxygen isn't the only thing flowing out of the leaves. Every time those little stomata open, water vapor escapes.
The release of water is called transpiration. In the course of any day, your average tree transpires about 4 bathtubs full of water.
Whoa! In one thin package, you've got a food producer, a gas exchanger, and a moisture maker. And you thought leaves were just designed for making shade. And speaking of leaves, I think it's time we were leaving, don't you?
Wait, don't leave yet. You'll miss the pop quiz.
I could grow used to that idea.
I wouldn't dream of it. Question number 1. What do all plants have in common? A. They're all vascular. B. They all perspire. C. They all live in soil. D. None of the above.
The correct answer is D. Though many plants are vascular, many others like mosses are non-vascular. Plants don't perspire, they transpire. Though both of those things do result in moisture. And whoever said they all live in soil is really all wet. Remember Kelly's Spanish moss? But if you like wet, question number 2 is just for you. What does the xylem do? A. It carries sugar throughout the plant. B. Makes beautiful music. C. It transports water and nutrients up from the roots to the rest of the plant.
Okay, music lovers, the answer is C. Water travels through the xylem. Sugar is transported by the phloem. Question number 3. What does the stem do? A. All of the below. B. Connects the roots to the leaves. Or C. Helps the plant stand up tall so it can reach for the sun.
All of the below?
That's right. And aren't we all just a little tired of all of the above?
Question number 4. In which part of the leaf does photosynthesis occur? A. The stomata. B. doesn't occur in the leaf at all. It happens in the roots. C. The mesophyll.
I'll take C, please. Photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplasts, which are in the mesophyll. And finally, question number 5. Besides anchoring the plant in the soil and storing food, roots A. Make it hard to pull weeds, B. Take in water and nutrients, or C. Release water into the soil.
It's B, of course, and it's one of the most important functions of roots in terms of plant growth. Next time you look at a plant, think about all those cells, tissues, and organs teaming up into roots, stems, and leaves. Together, they perform some of the most amazing feats on Earth, because the structure of plants is one of nature's coolest engineering jobs.